What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to go through my 6 sneaky starts and stats for week 9 of the fantasy football season. I know a lot of you guys are dealing with bye weeks. You have ETN on bye. You have Gibbs on bye. You have, on top of that, last-minute injuries. Drake London out. Amari DiMercato out. So a lot of us are kind of scrambling here, and today I'm giving you some sneaky starts. These guys are all outside of like the top, the top like 24 at their position in expert consensus. We'll talk through who I'm higher on the consensus, why, and provide a little stat nugget for each player. We have like a QB streamer of the week. We have some guys you can get off waiver wire. All of that good stuff will be in this video. As always, if you enjoy, make sure down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
All right, now our first sneaky start of this video is Kareem Hunt. Now, for every single one of these players, we're going to have this little screenshot pretty much where you have the player, their matchup, ECR's expert consensus ranking, so just what are they ranked on Fantasy Pros by the conglomerate of experts on there, my ranking, which you can find on patreon.com/Ron Stewart, the team total, so how much is Vegas implying each of these teams to score, the spread, are they favorites, are they underdogs, and then the stat. So Kareem Hunt here, we have as the consensus RB26. He's my RB21. I'm 5 spots higher than consensus this week on Kareem Hunt. The Browns are projected for the 8th most points in the NFL this week, and they are 9.5-point favorites at home versus the Cardinals. Now, the stat here is Kareem Hunt is 6th in the NFL with 80% of the Browns carries inside the 5 as a 9.5 home favorite projected for the 8th most points on the slate. Now, you can see here, Kareem Hunt on this chart. This is from Fantasy Points Data Suite. They actually have a lot of really cool data there. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. Fantasy Points wasn't really in my, how can I say this? It wasn't really in my bag last year. Fantasy Points, I didn't really love what they had going on over there. They have completely revamped their data over there, and it's pretty crazy how much stuff they have in this new data suite. They've really been revamping things this season. You can see it's Mixon, Derrick Henry, Saquon, Brian Robinson, Kenneth Walker, Kareem Hunt. He's getting 80% of the inside the 5 carries in his games as a Brown so far this year. And you can see as well, on top of that, the Browns are projected for a ton of points. I have a Hayden Winks chart here up in the top left. The Browns are projected for a ton of points. Like pretty much everyone in that top right corner, those are your elite offensive situations, as Hayden points out, because the Browns are all the way at the top in terms of plays per game. They're running a really high up-tempo offense, which is weird for Kevin Stefanski, and they're also projected to score a ton of points versus the Cardinals this week. Now, the Cardinals, when we go back to the stat, have allowed the 3rd most inside the 5 attempts with 18. Kareem Hunt should have plenty of scoring opportunities versus a bad Cardinals defense. You have a perfect spot here. Browns at home. Likely no Deshaun Watson, we'll see, but they're at home versus a pretty soft defense. They should be leading the entire game, and we presume they'll be on the goal line a few times. I like Kareem Hunt to score a touchdown. If you want to sprinkle, look, we don't give out betting advice on here, but I do like Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown scorer this week. If you can get it like anything at plus money, I think sounds good. Now, our second sneaky start. Now, we're gonna get deeper and deeper. I know Kareem Hunt's not really on waivers or anything, but he is somebody maybe you didn't really think too much about starting this week. You know, you have Jerome Ford in the mix and all of that. I think Jerome Ford will be a factor, but I think if Jerome Ford plays more this week, we'll actually see Pierre Strong snaps go down. And regardless, Kareem Hunt is the preferred goal line back, regardless of kind of who's in the mix. Now, the volume might not be anything too crazy, but I would expect like 10 to 15 touches and like a touchdown for Kareem Hunt. Now, our second sneaky start is a guy I feel like we put on this list every single week, and he just continues to get disrespected, and it's Marquise Brown. Again, he is going to be in Cleveland on the other side of this game. He's the consensus wide receiver 37. He's my wide receiver 33. We're 4 spots higher than consensus. They have a 14.5 team total this week, 28th. There's only 28 teams playing, so that is dead last, and they are 9.5-point underdogs in this game. The stat here, I'll put up to the side. This is actually Sam Hoppin's chart. He does a weekly matchups thread every single week on his Twitter. You can find the at the bottom of this graphic. It is amazing, amazing stuff. I don't know how he gets all of this data and compiles it all, but it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You can go all the way through, like literally everything you might need for a matchup is going to be on this chart. Now, Marquise Brown is 7th in fantasy points per route run, 6th in receiving grade, and 2nd in yards per route run versus man coverage. The Cleveland Browns run the most man coverage in the NFL. teeing up a great individual matchup for Marquise Brown, despite the Cardinals being projected for the least amount of points in Week 9. This is a PPR play in a trailing game script. So they're going to be on the road, trailing the entire game. Marquise Brown excels versus man coverage. Of course, Denzel Ward is great, and they have great corners, but Marquise Brown routinely beats great corners. Now, he's still just like a wide receiver 3/flex play here, but I like him to catch a bunch of balls, maybe give you like a 6 for 80 stat line, something in that range, which at this point in the season with all these buys, I think isn't the end of the world. You can see here on Sam Hoppin's chart, the most man coverage in the NFL, the highest rate. I knew you have Clayton Tune, but I just am one of those guys. I think that Marquise Brown is one of those guys where he just balls out with whoever. Again, I think he is a nice high floor PPR play in that game script against that specific defense. Now, after that, this is where we start to get really in the weeds here, and we have Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon is the RB 46 on the week. I want to see how many, what his rostership on ESPN is. I want to say it's pretty low, but he is owned just 33.8% of ESPN leagues. So he's out there in 70% of leagues right now. Jerick McKinnon, he's maybe available in my home league, I don't know. But he is available in most places, Jerick McKinnon. So again, if you are scrambling for running back, I don't mind Jerick McKinnon at all. He's consensus RB46. He's my RB40. The Chiefs are projected for the most points at 26 as 1.5 point favorites in Germany versus the Dolphins. And the stat here for Jerick McKinnon is he is coming off his highest snap share of the season at 40%, and he finds himself in Germany without Clyde Edwards-Helaire. During his 3-year stint in Kansas City, McKinnon has 5 points per game in 23 games with CEH, 11.4 points per game in 14 games without CEH. Pretty good. McKinnon is in range to set season highs in snap share and touches this week on a Chiefs offense projected to score the most points in what could turn into a track meet versus the Dolphins. So you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire out. You have Jerick McKinnon. I was pretty shocked by those splits. So that's during his entire 3-year stretch of being a Chief here, Jerick McKinnon. And in 14 games without Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 11.4 points per game is pretty nice. Now, Jerick McKinnon's always been sort of used on the goal line here. They've gone away from him recently. They've actually struggled in the red zone. It wouldn't shock me at all if they got Jerick McKinnon back in the mix on the goal line and he scores a touchdown this week. Jerick McKinnon, to me, you could do a lot worse, I think, without Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the mix. Pacheco's been a little bit cold. So definitely somebody to keep your eye on, Jerick McKinnon, if you're struggling at running back this week, which I imagine a lot of people are. Now, after that, we have our fourth sneaky start here, Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson, he's coming off his best game of the year. He is the wide receiver 49 on expert consensus. He is my wide receiver 36. I'm 13 spots higher than consensus here. And I'm actually starting him in my home league. I think that what's going to happen is I have Drake London in my home league. Drake London is out this week. I think Jahan Dotson is going to have to go into the lineup. We're, I believe, 3-5 in there. We're clawing back. We started out 0-4. We've been 3-1 ever since. Should have been 4-0. We had like the third highest points scored in the league, but lost to the first highest points scored in the league in like week 6. We're fighting and clawing our way back here. But the stat here for Jahan Dotson, who's in New England as a 2.5 point underdog. Jahan Dotson is coming off his best game of the season with 25 PPR points versus the Eagles, which also coincided with Curtis Samuel playing a season-low 20% of the routes. Curtis Samuel is ruled out this week, allowing for Dotson to be a bigger part of this offense yet again. The Patriots are an underrated pass funnel with the 4th best EPA per play rush defense. So EPA per play is just per play efficiency. EPA per play rush defense and the 27th pass EPA per play defense, allowing the 12th most fantasy points to wide receivers. Howell and this depleted Washington defense is live to spark a shootout in any game. Now you can see here Sam Hoppin's chart. The Patriots really bad against the pass, really good against the run. Their opponent's pass over expectation 12th in the NFL. That's perfect. So they're going to force Washington to pass the ball a lot. I don't really see their offensive line and Brian Robinson getting going versus this Patriots defense. And this could be one of those like really ugly shootout type areas where Sam Howell just keeps moving down the field and a Montez Sweatless and Chase Youngless Washington defense just lets Mac Jones get going. This could be one of those games where it ends like 30-27 and like both Mac Jones and Sam Howell have 300 passing yards. And without Curtis Samuel in the mix, Jahan Dotson should see a lot of these passing yards, passing targets, passing attempts. And I don't mind the idea of him getting home in back-to-back weeks here. So Jahan Dotson, a nice little flex play here. We have him at wide receiver 36 this week. Now going a little bit deeper here we have, now I will say, I don't know how Reed and Jahan Dotson are both wide receiver 49 in expert consensus rankings. I think as I was just going through the list, maybe I refreshed it and it kind of updated. But our fifth sneaky start is Jayden Reed at home versus the Rams. He is my wide receiver 41. I'm 8 spots higher than consensus. The Packers are projected for the 14th most points this week as home favorites versus the Rams. And the stat here is Jayden Reed is coming off his highest route percentage game of the season in a game where both Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs ran 80% of the routes. Luke Musgrave's status is to be determined. He has like some sort of injury that he's been limited in practice with. And Jayden Reed leads all Packers wide receivers in yards per out run versus zone against a Rams defense that runs zone at the 5th highest rate in the NFL. You could definitely do worse at wide receiver 40 plus. You can see here, it's pretty crazy that Jayden Reed, this is a screen grab from Utilization Report on My Fantasy Life, Dwayne McFarland's tool. It's really, really cool. But it shows Jayden Reed's route percentage by week. And it's really crazy to me that he had 88% in a game where both Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs were healthy. So that to me signals that they want Jayden Reed in the mix and as a focal point in their offense, regardless of Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs' health, which hasn't been the case. We could see he was at like 67, 72, 68, and then Christian Watson came back around that week 5 area, and that's when Jayden Reed kind of got phased out of the offense. It seems like they really want to get him back in the mix here, and you can see this is a screen grab from PFF below that. Yards per out run. Jayden Reed is the only guy on this Packers offense with a 2+ yards per out run versus zone coverage. So he excels in that area of the versus that style of defense. Jayden Reed, a really fun play as well that I think is probably available on waivers a ton on ESPN. Yeah, he's only rostered in 17% of leagues, Jayden Reed. I do want to check Dotson. I think Dotson's probably owned in he's owned in 60%. So Jayden Reed is one of those guys like McKinnon that you can just sort of grab off the streets if you needed to. Now, our last sneaky start is our QB streamer of the week, Derek Carr. Now, he is the consensus QB 11. He's my QB 9. So I'm not like way ahead of consensus on Derek Carr, but I just wanted to include him as my streamer of the week. He's only he's available in 77% of ESPN leagues. He's going to be at home versus the Bears. They have a team total tied for 4th in the NFL at 24.75 as 8.5-point favorites here. And the stat reads, the Saints are projected to score the 4th most points by Vegas this week at home versus Chicago. There will be a lot of points scored, and that could be through the air, as the Bears are a sneaky pass funnel with their opponents ranking 6th in pass rate over expectation. The Saints also rank 13th in fantasy points per dropback versus zone and play a Chicago team that runs the 11th highest rate of zone coverage in the NFL. So this should be in Carr's wheelhouse. Carr is available in 77% of ESPN leagues and is a top 12 play this week at quarterback. Chris Olave also in a big bounce back spot here. So you can see to the right, fantasy points per dropback versus zone. That's a really cool thing that the data suite on fantasy points does. And then you have, again, the Sam Hoppen matchups picture where you can see the Bears have the sixth highest pass rate over expectation. Sneaky pass funnel, as I said, man. Like, they are actually pretty good against the run. They have like a top 3 rush EPA per play defense where their pass defense is awful. Derek Carr, I think, should be able to sort of slice and dice this defense up at home in the dome. Derek Carr in a really, really nice spot this week. Now, before we get out of here, I set up a nice little pick'em slip on Underdog Fantasy. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy, make sure you check it out. You can use promo code Ron and they'll match your first deposit up to $500. I'll have that link in the description, in the comment section down below. These were some of the lines, the pick'em lines that stood out to me. You can pretty much string them together, right? You can see if you get 4 correct, right? You can go higher or lower on receptions, fantasy points, whatever. They have a ton of projections. You can do NBA, NHL. They have all of that stuff. I just stuck to the NFL here. But if you get 4 right, so I have Marquise Brown receptions, Jahan Dotson fantasy points, Jayden Reed receiving yards. I went lower. I know that this was kind of a stray on Deontay Foreman, but it feels kind of, what am I trying to say? It feels like you're a sucker if you don't go lower on at least one line on these. So we went lower on the Deontay Foreman projection of 49.5 rushing and receiving yards. On the other side of that Saints game, they're not going to be in the game script to give Deontay Foreman enough volume to hit 50 total yards here. And if you get all 4 of those right, you 10x your money. Now, you can go all the way up to 20 extra money if you use my partner special Garrett Wilson pick'em projection here, where all he has to do is go higher than 0.5 total yards. He's done that in every single game of his NFL career. That is special for just people that use promo code Ron. It's really cool that Underdog has allowed us to do this, but if you've used promo code Ron in the past, if you use it now, or anytime before that Monday night game. Again, if you use promo code RON, you're new to Underdog Fantasy, they'll match your first deposit up to $500. Link in the description and the comment section down below. It'll take you there, and this will be waiting for you in the Pick'em lobby. Again, if you've used promo code RON in the past, this will be available for you in the Pick'em lobby. Make sure you go check it out. They are the best. Hop on the Pick'em lobby, see what it's all about, and just sort of, I'm sure that Underdog sees the numbers on the back end of how many of you guys are using it, the partner special. Don't let it go to waste. Make sure you check it out. Again, it's like a free space in one of these where this 4 Pick'em slip would be 10x. You add in Garrett Wilson, that's pretty much a freebie, goes with a 20x. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Make sure you check that out. As always, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, oh, oh.